Carmi Levy is standing by, CTV tech analyst, to run down some of the big stories in tech this week, starting with TikTok. In the U.S., they're serious about banning TikTok. It has cleared the U.S. House of Representatives. It now moves on to the Senate. And Carmi, this is a big story, first of all, and I think it's worth pointing out, and I don't think the difference is much greater in Canada or pretty much the same it is in the U.S. There are 170 million American users of TikTok. And as I said when I first brought this up this afternoon, there are lots of people actually, I think fair to say, making a living, right, as content producers on TikTok. So this is going to affect a lot of people if, in fact, the ban goes on.
Yeah, depending on who you talk to, that number could be tens of millions of people who literally that's their job. They've decided to forge their career on this platform. They post videos. They generate a huge following. They derive advertising revenue from that. That's how they make their money. And then there are another estimated 7 million small businesses that also post content and sell stuff, products, services, whatever, to their customers in the U.S. And that is their primary form of marketing. It's how they advertise. And if you're in Canada, it touches you too, because a lot of the folks who are doing exactly the same thing. We have influencers in Canada. We have businesses that are doing business on TikTok here, and a lot of their audience is in the U.S. as well. So we tend to think of TikTok as this, sort of flighty little app where we share videos of ourselves dancing and our cute puppies and kittens. But in reality, it's almost like an economy of its own. Huge amount of money changes hands on this thing. And if you sort of threaten for that thing to go dark, that'll have a major economic impact, not only in the U.S., but north of the border as well.
So we're talking U.S., but we find out today, conveniently, that Canada, outside of banning this for people who work with government agencies or in the government, they're not allowed to have TikTok, that app, on their phone anyway. But now the government, apparently, for the past 6 months, has been looking into the same thing the U.S. is.
Yeah, it's sort of weird. They ordered this national security review last September, but didn't say anything about it. And only now that it's sort of coming out in the U.S. that the legislation there is moving forward, suddenly Canada decides, well, maybe we should tell people what we're up to. And what's their excuse for waiting 6 months? They said it was for national security reasons, that they wanted to protect privacy and they didn't want to kind of show their hand. This is a security issue. Well, if it was an issue then, it's an issue now. So why now? My answer is politics. As always, Canada doesn't want to be seen as sitting on the side doing nothing while the U.S. moves forward with this kind of legislation. And I think they're just sending a message. We're watching and waiting and seeing what they do in the U.S. and we'll ultimately do something. But wanted to let you know that we're not twiddling our thumbs here. We're actively watching TikTok, making sure that Canadians' interests aren't being compromised. And so I agree that we need to have this. You can't afford to stick your head in the sand if you're a country, because we know full well that other countries are using apps on our phones as a way of collecting huge amounts of information from us and then using it against us. So the potential is there. Our government needs to do this. A little more transparency would be nice, though.
All right, let me move on from that and talk about, and maybe you can explain this because, this story is everywhere. The story where Princess Kate goes ahead and doctors a photo, and every picture agency in the world is now wondering what they're getting. These are not photos that they should have gotten from the royal family. Can you explain what the outcry here is? I'm not sure I fully understand this.
Well, the princess, like me, like many of our listeners, is an avid amateur photographer. Takes a lot of pictures of her family, shares them. That's just her thing. It's one of the reasons I'm not a royal fan, but it's one of the reasons I'm a fan of her, for exactly that reason. And how many of us will take a picture, it comes out, it doesn't come out so great, so we put it into Photoshop or Lightroom or some other photo editing app, and we play with it. We punch the levels a little bit, we make it a little brighter. Maybe our kid got some ice cream on her sleeve, so we use the repair tool to take away the stain, and now we have a perfect picture that we can share on Instagram and send to the grandparents. That is awesome. So she didn't do anything that any of us hasn't done a million times before. The difference here, she's the princess, and she works with Kensington Palace. Kensington Palace releases these photos and doesn't say that there were minor edits applied to them. So when the press agencies and the photo agencies got a hold of the photo and they said there's evidence here that they've been edited, they issued what's called a kill notice and they pulled it down. So she's not really guilty of anything. We all do it, but the agencies that she's working with, her palace, needs to be a little bit better about being transparent, saying, you know what, the princess, she's an avid photographer. She made some slight edits. She played with the light levels or something, just so you know. And the only reason this is an issue, A, because she's a royal and we're not. And this is also coming at a time when she just had surgery, so everybody's watching her every move, hoping she's okay.
Oh, I see.
And
Okay.
we're also having this big global debate about artificial intelligence. And guess what? AI tools can also do this with photos and can make it easy to create a photo that never really happened. So you don't really know if what you're getting is true. The last thing you want is the royal family being accused of lying to the world through their photos. So they need to be a little bit more careful. That's the only thing they're guilty of. I'll still be a fan of her photos.
Okay, now I kind of get it. I mean, a zipper here, a hand there. I'm like, why is everyone freaking out? But okay, you're right. It's the royal family. You expect to get the real deal and not a photoshopped image. So, okay. Let me move on and talk about, speaking of Photoshop. So here's an AI story. Marilyn Monroe, who's been gone for 50 years or God knows how long. What is happening at South by Southwest?
So they introduced something called Digital Marilyn. It comes to us from a company called Soul Machines, and basically it was an interactive session where she looked and sounded just like Marilyn Monroe, and you could actually ask her questions about her craft, about the movies that she's been in, about her life.
No kidding.
And she would answer them based on how she was trained. Really cool looking, but also super creepy, because even though her estate approved this, they approved that they'll sort of create this bot based on her. She died decades before any of this technology was a thing. So I kind of have to wonder, would she have approved this? Would she have been okay with it? And I think technology like this, hey, like if you're into it and you want your likeness to go on after you die, then by all means, you have every right to say, here, train the bot on me, and everyone can talk with my digital avatar long after I'm gone. But it's a whole other story if you don't have control over that. Consent is not given. So it all comes down to consent. It's a cool exercise in technology, but I think it does push a few, let's call them moral and ethical limits. And I'm not so willing that I'd be willing to say yes if that were the case for me, although I guess people would want to see Marilyn a little bit more than they'd ever want to see me.
Probably. And finally, let's talk Wordle. For all the Wordlers out there, I include myself in this. Look at this. The New York Times cracking down on Wordle clones.
Yeah, there are so many games out there that they look just like Wordle. They got the green and the yellow squares, and you sort of reveal it line by line. They basically play the same way, but some of them use images, some of them use emojis, some of them there's even a Canadian version of one, Knuckle or Quordle or Nerdle or Crosswordle. And so the New York Times, which of course bought Wordle a couple of years ago for about $1 million, sees that as a threat to its investment. And so basically it's been sending takedown letters to developers who've been creating these copies of Wordle, essentially saying, we'll sue you unless you take it down. And so if you are using one of these copies, be prepared. Because it might very well go dark over the next few days, weeks, or months. But the interesting thing about the internet, and we've seen this before, Aaron, is that you can threaten to sue someone until the end of time, but it's like whack-a-mole. Some of them will disappear, but there will always be new ones coming up. And as long as there's demand for Wordle and Wordle copies, there's probably always some developer who's willing to risk it, and you'll probably be able to find an alternative. But you may have to jump around a little bit if you're a fan, or just subscribe to the New York Times and just get the original.
Can you get the original for free, or do you have to pay to get it from the Times? Because I've had it for so long, I don't even know. I don't think I pay for it.
No, I think it's still available for free. They kind of use it as a loss leader so that you'll be incentivized, because New York Times does have other kind of crossword-like games that are available digitally, and so they use it almost as a marketing thing.
Okay.
Oh, if you like this one, we got a whole bunch of others. Just subscribe and you can have access to them all.
Hey, Carmi.
Yeah.
Got it in 3 today. All right, Carmi Levy, our CTV tech analyst. Thank you, Carm.
Well, you're better than I am.
Talk to you next week.